Alrighty, so I think now is a great time to get started and jump in. I wanted to start by saying thank you everybody for joining us today, both our presenters and our residents and community members that have both been affected by the recent floods and who are providing resources and helping connect us to resources because of the recent flood. I wanted to also start by saying that it's been a very difficult time for many of us throughout the region and throughout the province. We've been hit by a number of things quite frequently. And so we recognize that every situation is unique and every person's needs are unique. And so we hope that we're able to provide at least an ability to link people to the correct resources that they need for each individual situation. I also want to thank everybody for taking the time during this stressful period to join us and listen in to find out how they can get connected with their resources. So just a couple of housekeeping pieces, because this is an open webinar, we do request that unless you're one of our presenters, please remain muted throughout the presentation. If you're having connectivity issues and you might have difficulty hearing us, you can always turn off your video, and then that usually helps the sound come through a little bit better. The second big piece is that we will be having a question and answer period after all of our presenters have had a chance to speak. But we do request that you only submit questions through the chat feature. And that is through this box over here. It's the chat box. That gives us an opportunity to keep track of the questions that are being asked, and then also provide you an opportunity to receive links through the chat if need be. If your question is not answered because we run out of time, or if you feel like we haven't touched on it as completely as you'd like, you can always connect with us through the emergency services at RDN .bc.ca website, or you can call us at 250-390-4111. We're recording this seminar so that if anybody misses any pieces, or if you have a family member or neighbor who would like to view the seminar, we'll be posting it on our rdn.bc.ca/flooding webpage so that you can watch it and see it as many times as you need. Similarly, we'll also be providing links to all of the resources that we've spoken about today, and we'll be continuously updating them as we find out more from the province and from the different agencies that we've been working with. So our agenda for this morning, I'm starting with my introduction of our guest speakers and welcoming you all this morning. Then I'll speak to connecting our residents with resources. So we'll touch on Emergency Info BC, British Columbia 211, Island Health, and tips on psychological resilience through disaster. We'll then jump into our disaster financial assistance conversation with Nadine. But just in case she's having some technical difficulties, we might jump into Shane from Canadian Red Cross. After that, we've got Hans from BC Housing, and then a conversation with Julie Rushton with the United Way. Finally, we'll have our conversation through the question and answer period of any questions that you might have. And as I mentioned again, please do reach out or contact us if you're uncomfortable asking a question through the chat feature, or if your question remains unanswered, or if you think of something that you would like to know from us afterward. Perfect. I see we've got Nadine here. So when she's back, we'll jump right in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Nadine.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna present a couple little pieces and then I'll shoot it over to you once I'm done here. Awesome. Thanks, Nadine. So I wanted to start just sharing with you the Emergency Info BC website. You can visit the link there, or you can call them at 1-833-376-2452. They provide emergency info on the current situations, as well as quite a number of links to resources. But they're a great place to start if you want to find out if you're in an area where there's an evacuation alert order, or if your evacuation or alert order area has been rescinded, so meaning you can go back home. It also provides links to the current roads and weather conditions, evacuee information if you need to register as an evacuee or if you need to connect with resources. There's also links on insurance information and support services for residents, whether that be health support or mental health support if you need it. I also have a video here on the BC 211, and I'll just play that for you to give an impression of what BC 211 is available to provide you with. So here we go. There we go. So I hope everyone was able to hear that one. So BC 211 is a resource that connects residents in BC with a variety of resources that they might need. So on this slide, you can see that there's quite a number of different kind of characteristics or categories that you can tap into, whether it be support for emergency crisis, like we're talking about today, but that might lead into support for healthcare. If you have disabilities or mobility issues that need support, as well as transportation, housing, and victim services. You can lift your phone and just call 211, and it'll connect you to an operator with the British Columbia 211. Or if you want some more information, you can head to the www.bc.211.ca, and it'll link you to many of the resources. And this is actually the landing page for them. It'll link you to those resources that you might be looking for. If you head to bc.211.ca/flood, it takes you to a webpage that has the 2021 flood specific information. So that includes disaster relief funds, as well as many of the organizations that we'll be speaking today. One of the other concerns that comes up when we have a flood scenario are some of the health concerns and environmental health issues that may affect your home or house when you're inundated with flood waters. It can be extremely overwhelming, so there are resources out there to help you fix up your home and tap into resources to make your home back to your home again. To start out, sometimes we're concerned about how you need to clean your home or clean surfaces throughout your home. So you can head to the link that I've included here to find more information on how to appropriately clean surfaces and clean your home after they've been affected by floodwaters. You may also be concerned about your well if you live in some of the more rural areas and are not connected to the municipal water system. So there's information on when and why you should test your wells and what to do if you find that it is contaminated. There's also information on drinking water and disinfecting your drinking water. And there are also many more resources that Island Health can provide. And if you need to be connected with the environmental health officers, we can support you in that. So you can head to www.rdn.bc.ca/flooding. There's some links there that will connect you to Island Health resources. as well as our email if you do want to be connected with an island health officer. And finally, my last piece for this presentation is to bring up some of the psychological resilience connections and agencies that can provide you with support after a disaster. We have a lot of ranging emotions, especially when we're experiencing situations that we haven't been in before, like receiving an evacuation alert for the first time, or maybe the 100th time, but it's still a scary situation, and it can evoke emotions of loss and worry and stress and anxiety, and it can affect us all. So if you're feeling stressed or anxious, you're not alone, and there are resources that we can connect you with to help support you. We encourage you to take care, do things that make you feel good and things that help you relieve stress. I know that throughout this time, I find that moving my body and doing physical exercise helps me clear my brain. So we encourage you to keep doing those things that make you feel normal, like making sure you get a good night's sleep, head to the gym for exercise. It's also valuable to help others. We want to take care of vulnerable people, people with disabilities, and people that may not be able to support themselves completely in a time of uncertainty. For a complete list of resources that are available, you can head to our rdn.bc.ca/flooding webpage. But I've also provided a couple of links here. So you can head to HealthlinkBC, and that'll take you to the mental health and substance use crisis line. So if you're feeling that you're concerned and you want to tap into a crisis line, you can give them a call there. There's the BC Mental Health Support Line. It's available 24 hours a day. And with no area code, you can just lift your phone and call 310-6789. And for the Indigenous Crisis Line, you can call 1-800-588-8717, and that will connect you to mental health resources. I wanted to say again, thank you, and thank you to our presenters for being here today and connecting our residents. And just a reminder that at any time, if you feel like you need more resources or you need to contact us, you can visit www.rdn.bc.ca. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's contact information below there, and that'll make sure you get connected with the correct individual with the RDN. So that takes me to the end of my piece. Nadine, you are up next, and I'll just bring your presentation online. And as we go through, you can just let me know when you want to advance the slide, and I will do that for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you everyone for joining, and thanks for inviting me to give some information about our disaster financial assistance program today. So you can go ahead and skip to the first slide. So disaster financial assistance, or DFA, is a funding body that's authorized by the Emergency Program Act. We are a legislative program, which means that who is eligible and what items that are eligible is determined by our legislation. Our goal is to provide the maximum amount of help as we can to residents who have been affected by this flooding event under our regulations. Understand that this is an incredibly difficult time, and us at DFA want to do what we possibly can to help make this a little bit easier. So DFA is a helping hand, meaning that it doesn't act similar to insurance, whereas we're not going to cover 100% of what was lost, and losses are limited to essential needs that were not insurable. Every application is evaluated using the same criteria, and the compensation that we pay is consistent for every event, regardless of the type of disaster or where you are located. DFA isn't authorized for every natural disaster event in the province. It is only authorized when it meets certain criteria. So the flooding event of November 14th to 16th was declared eligible for DFA. So DFA, as I said, can cover essential items and personal property that has been lost or destroyed during the flooding event. We can cover 80% of eligible costs minus $1,000 up to a maximum of $300,000. Okay, you want to skip the next one? Thanks so much. So the first step in seeking disaster financial assistance is sending in an application form to us. We do have a website. At the end of the presentation, I'll show you how to find our website. I'll also send a link in the chat. So the first thing that you do is confirm that the date and the date of damage and your area has been declared an event. So Vancouver Island has been declared an event for the November 14th to 16th flooding event. And you can apply in 5 different categories. We have a homeowner category, a residential tenant category, small business, a farm owner, or a charity. You can apply in multiple different categories if it's applicable. For example, if you have a home that was damaged and you also are an owner of a small business that was damaged, you can apply multiple times for different categories. We have 2 different application forms. One is for a residential tenant / homeowner, and one is for the small business, charity, and farm owner. We do have a 90-day application deadline. That deadline is February 12th, 2022. So please make sure that you get your application into us before that time. Each eligibility or each applicant category has specific eligibility requirements that you will have to meet in order to be eligible for our program. I'm not going into the specifics about the eligibility criteria or all of the eligibility criteria, but they are listed on our website, and we have a document on our website called our private sector application guidelines, which gives detailed information on the eligibility criteria for all of the applicant categories. The main ones are if you are a homeowner or a residential tenant, the home has to be your primary residence. And if you are a small business or a farm owner, the business or farm needs to make up the majority of your income. So that's not an extensive list of the eligibility criteria, but those are the main ones. Once we get an application form in from you, the first thing that we do is review your application to determine eligibility under our applicant criteria. So for both applications, so for all categories, we need to establish insurability. So we will send off a form to you or correspond with you about insurability and how to confirm that. There's some documentation required, but a recovery officer for disaster financial assistance will reach out to you individually when you get an application in to talk about next steps and what's required. For small businesses and farm owners, we will need some financial documentation. So the specifics on what are required in relation to that will be explained to you on a telephone call once we get your application in. There is a quick notations on the application form saying what documentation approximately will be needed, so you can try your best to kind of get that organized ahead of time if you would like. Once we establish eligibility within our applicant's criteria, we then usually each file is dealt with on a case-by-case basis. They're all a little bit different, but usually your file will be assigned to a field manager who will arrange a time with you to actually go and assess the damage in person. So someone will come to your home or to your property, and look at the damage and come up with an assessed value of what is eligible under a program, what the approximate cost is to restore or replace those items, and then a report is drafted and sent back to the DFA office. And then after that point, if you are eligible for payment, we will then process payment and send to you in the form of a check to your mailing address. You can skip to the next slide. Thanks. So how do you find the DFA program? It's really easy if you just go into a search engine such as Google and search up DFA BC. It should be the first one that pops up there. I can also post it. I'll post the link in the chat here for you guys. And if you want to flip to the next slide, this is what our website looks like. So on our website, we do have all the necessary information you're going to need to apply. We have our application forms on there, and we have a brief rundown of the step-by-steps of what you can expect. And there are some resources on there. So I mentioned the private sector guidelines is a really good resource to read about our program and the specific eligibility requirements within each applicant category. And applications can be submitted to us via email, or you can fax it or mail it if you're not able to email it as well. Our email and contact information is all on the application form, but it is dfa@gov.bc.ca. So for disaster financial assistance, dfa@gov.bc.ca. And if you want to go to the next slide. So yeah, how to contact DFA. There's our email. I just said it verbally, but it's written on the slide there. And we also have a toll-free number that you're welcome to call and ask any questions. If you want to talk specifics about your file, we can try and answer your questions. So our toll-free number is 1-888-257-4777. And that's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to take questions if we're doing those at the end, or however is best for the process.
Yeah, I think we'll grab questions at the end, and we'll do a moderated question. So I'll shoot the questions to who they belong to as we see them in the chat. Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much, Nadine. We really appreciate you joining us today and taking. Alrighty, so now do we still have hands with BC Housing?
Hi there, my name's Olivia.
Hey Olivia.
Hi, I'm also with BC Housing. I will be speaking on behalf of Hans and I. We are both on the call today, but we both unfortunately will have to leave soon after our presentation. But I'm very grateful to be here, so thank you for having us on this call. We just wanted to give some information about BC Housing and essentially what we do here when we have our clientele and how we take in our applications. So we have a ton of resources that we look to go with, but it all comes through the same channel of housing. And so I wanted to offer everyone different links and numbers that they can call depending on what situation their clients or anyone that are in these situations need. So for instance, our Vancouver Island regional office is located here in Victoria. I encourage, if you have any questions about applications or need assistance about different housing opportunities, I encourage everyone to call our regional office because we do have a lot of information and or know a lot of people that can help depending on the situation. So with BC Housing, on our website, if you go to www.bchousing.org, you can find out how to apply for affordable housing. With that, the clients will fill out an application with us. And essentially that is going through all of their current needs assessments and what they really require in terms of housing. From there, they will be put into our housing registry, and that basically is a funnel point of different housing that they can be applicable for. Again, depending on their needs assessment, some may need more assistance living, or some may need just more affordable housing. So depending on their situation is where the categorized of their application will be. And we just wanted to make it known that with the high housing crisis that we're already working with, applications can take up to about 2 weeks to activate, and then up to a month potentially, depending on the needs assessment, to get into our registry. So we are more of a long-term basis in terms of housing, because of our high list of inquiries and clientele that we are looking to house currently. But I know it was already mentioned, if someone is in an emergency situation and they require emergency shelter program, we do also offer resources on our website for the www.bc211.ca, where you can see the shelter map around the Vancouver Island region, or wherever the client is located. And that can help you get different resources with the shelters there. With that, we also have a whole team of outreach workers that do work in the shelters periodically, that will help those clienteles fill out applications for long-term housing with us. So they are hands-on. They do take applications to these shelters to provide clients with the assistance they need to fill out their applications, because we do understand the clientele that we're working with. So yeah, so that's basically most of our emergency / how to apply for housing. But if a client already has an application with us, I would encourage them to call our applicant services number, which is just at the bottom left corner there. And they can call and see and check up on their application. They can ask about where they are depending on the listing, and depending on their needs assessment of where they are looking to be housed. Again, it is quite a lengthy list that we're working with, a wait list that, I mean, we are looking for long-term housing for people. So again, we are probably a last resource that we encourage you to apply, but also would like people to also look elsewhere, just because of our housing crisis that we're in right now. But then in terms of housing listings, you can also find that on our website, and there's also a link and then a couple directions on how to get there, and you can see the different housing listings in your region that are available for you to apply to as well, if you would like specific regional housing. So yeah, it's pretty short and sweet, but I encourage everyone to maybe, if you can, print off this contact list and be able to share it with your clientele, because we do really encourage people to call us, to email us with any questions, because we do have access to the housing registry around the island. And again, we have our resources for that information to help people apply. And we are looking to help, but again, we are unfortunately a long-term resource. Yeah, that's basically it from us.
Awesome. Thank you, Olivia. I know you guys have to jump off the call. So what I'll do is, if we have any BC housing specific questions, I'll put them into contact with you and the resources there, so that we can get everyone's questions answered. But thank you guys both, Hans and Olivia, for coordinating with me and joining us today and providing us with this information.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, yeah, maybe we can share my email. If you have any questions off the call, I'm happy to help out or forward those questions onto the applicable person that can help. So again, we are here as a resource and would love to help as much as you can. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you again. Also from my end, Caitlin, and then everybody on the call. Yeah, please, if you want to forward any questions that might come up to Vancouver Island Region at bchousing.org, as it's on the little sheet that we provided. Happy to answer any questions you guys might have, or any questions that come up. Yeah, thanks for giving us the opportunity to be here and yeah, provide what we do and what we can hopefully help with.
Awesome. And just for our residents, so that you know, we will be posting all of these links and all of the information on our website, so that you don't have to scramble to write anything down or worry about missing anything. All right. Thank you, Olivia and Hans. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
So next up, I believe it's going to be Shane with Canadian Red Cross, and I'll pop your presentation up.
Hello all. Is my audio okay?
I can hear you A-okay.
Perfect. I will apologize in advance. I had a dental appointment yesterday. I've been forbidden any coffee until tomorrow, so I'm calling to you much diminished.
Oh no.
I'm a little bit marble-mouthed, please bear with me. Yeah, my name is Shane, calling on behalf of the Canadian Red Cross. First and foremost, wanted to acknowledge the traditional and ancestral lands of the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish and Musqueam people where I live. I'm a guest from overseas. I feel very indebted to the people who stewarded these lands through generations. And I'm currently calling from my workspace in Abbotsford, and wanted to acknowledge the traditional ancestral lands of the Stolo and Nooksack Kwantlen people. And in the interest of sharing homes, I like to bring a little piece of Ireland to any meeting, and in thanks offer the words Cordes Quia, friendship always. Next slide, down to business. So the Canadian Red Cross are working closely with community leadership on all levels of government on how best to support people who've been impacted by flooding and extreme weather throughout British Columbia. We know from experience that recovery takes a long time. We're not just here for the next week. We're going to be province-wide for the weeks, the months ahead. Our teams will continue to support people in communities as they recover probably for the coming year. Donations are incoming. The response from the people of Canada has been immense. A lot of support given, and they'll be used for immediate and ongoing relief efforts, long-term recovery, resilience, and risk reduction activities in and beyond the region at the individual community levels, to make sure that the impact of the next flood is less severe. We want to always look forward and ensure preparedness. Next slide. Thank you. So what are we doing? We'll be providing direct financial assistance to households who are evacuated from their primary homes due to flooding and extreme weather, November 14th through 16th. So we're working across the Lower Mainland and in Vancouver Island, and we'll be delivering a one-time payment of $2,000 per household to help cover the immediate needs related to evacuation and re-entry. We're using a geo-eligibility tool to roughly map the areas that are affected, but we encourage everybody who's in an affected area, if you feel you were affected by the floods, to call and register. Registration is important even if you've already registered with ESS, Emergency Support Services, or even if you're staying with family and friends. So if you don't need emergency lodging, please call this number and register with us anyway. It ensures that people are accounted for and can be reached with information about Red Cross services and assistance. And God forbid, if there is another way that front comes in, we'll have you on the books already, and it'll speed the process along if you do need future support. So the number is there, 1-800-863-6582. Please call us, register. You can talk to the agent, one of our staff who answers the phone, and work with them to figure out if you qualify for a payment. Thank you, Caitlin. As well as that, if you just need information on re-entry, you've been perhaps in commercial lodging for the last few days, you're going home in the coming days, and you want to know what your next steps are. There's a lot of information available on our website. So the Canadian Red Cross website will help you navigate through recovery safely when you're ready. These supports include step-by-step guide, checklists, information to help you understand your insurance policy, and other practical tips. These items that overwhelm us at the best of times, much less in moments of distress like this. The URL is posted there. Obviously, I guess it'll be posted on the Regional District and Nanaimo website. I don't expect anybody to be able to scribble it down right there, but if you're looking to peruse the website, you'll go to redcross.ca, how we help, emergencies and disasters, the Get Help section, and then the section on flooding. It's relatively easy to orientate yourself on the website, but feel free to take a look. It'll have good options on recovery and preparedness for future weather events. I blitzed through that, but looking forward to any questions. I'll be available to the end of the call.
Marvelous, Shane. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining in. And I know you probably have your hands full out there in the valley. So thank you for taking the time to meet with us today and being around for answering questions.
It's happy to be here. Thank you.
So our last presentation is going to be Julie with, we've got United Way. And let me just grab your PowerPoint here so we can get you ready to go.
Perfect. Thanks, Caitlin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Julie Rushton, and I'm with United Way, Central Northern Vancouver Island. I just want to start today by acknowledging that I'm coming to you from the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, more specifically the beautiful people of Nanaimo. So I'm honored to be sharing this knowledge with you on their traditional territory. We also want to just express that our thoughts are with everyone who are currently feeling the effects of the flooding, and we hope that we can provide some resources to ease some of the discomfort. Next slide. So United Way BC, we bring together the power of many to help those affected by the flooding. And we're doing that through a variety of ways. So the first way, as we've heard earlier in this presentation, is BC 211. So it's a free confidential service that really links you to supports in terms of agencies, ongoing relief efforts, long-term supports that can be put in place to support where you are. And you can also find, as mentioned from BC Housing, a list of the shelters, emergency shelters in your region. So the second way that we're providing support is in November, we launched the United for BC Response Fund. And so those funds will be used to provide immediate ongoing relief, long-term recovery, resilience, and preparedness for future events. We're hearing from a lot of people that they're busy preparing for this next atmospheric river that will be hitting us and is hitting us now. So these funds can be used to support ongoing. Next slide. So just to give you an example of some of these funds, and actually I'm going to back up a little bit because I think it's important that anyone can access BC 211 in the community. So it's important that I share that with you. In terms of our flooding support, so organizations who are charitable status organizations can apply for these funding. So if you're watching this and you're a resident who's been displaced by flooding or have been negatively affected in some way, yet you know of organizations that are actively working, supporting those who are experiencing flooding, please share this information with these organizations and have them contact us. So they're looking at funding case management services, basic needs assistance. An example of basic needs assistance would be when COVID hit and all the water was turned off at the local taps outside. Our homeless people didn't have access to fresh water. So United Way came in, purchased water, delivered it down to the downtown core and shared that out. So if there's some basic needs, we would be happy to support you in that. Mental health services, we're seeing a rise in mental health just because of COVID. Add on to it the flooding, and we're seeing a rise in mental health support service needs. Legal services to support low-income families, efforts to provide flood preparedness training workshops, and meals to evacuees and first responders. So when you have no home, you often have no access to food. So those are really important pieces in our recovery efforts. Next slide, please. So the United for BC Flood Response that organizations can apply for is a two-step process. So the first step is completing an agency registration form, and that's really to determine, are you a charitable organization, and that your process will move forward from there. After you've registered, you will receive the official application form via email. There's two contacts that I'm sharing with you today, Jessica at UWBC and Maya at UWBC. They're both the ones looking after this fund. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email them and request information regarding the response fund. Next slide, please. So again, just wanted to really make sure that BC 211 is an active resource that people know about and are able to utilize. So information and referrals to a broad range of community government and social services, food, shelter, again, mental health, addiction support, legal and financial assistance, support for seniors, and much more. So you can call or you can text to receive these supports. Next slide, please. And as always, if you know of anyone who would like to donate to support the efforts, the recovery efforts, I'm just wanting to share our donation page because there is a lot of people asking, how can we help? And so United Way is actively collecting funds to support those who are displaced or affected by the flooding. I also want to make sure to point out that we are United Way BC, but United Way Central Northern Vancouver Island is a portion of that larger organization, and we are local here in Nanaimo. We have a local office, and any funds that are raised stay local. So we are actively raising local funds to provide supports in community. Thank you very much for your time. And again, if there's anything that we can do to support you, please come forward and ask any questions you might have. Thank you.
I'm still slow on that unmute button. Anyway, thank you so much, Julie, and everyone else who was able to present. I do appreciate that it's a lot of information and it's a lot to kind of capture in 40 minutes. So like I said, everything will be available on the Regional District of Nanaimo webpage. We will be posting this recording as well as many of the links that have been talked about today, all of the links that have been talked about today. And at any time, if you do have any questions that you want to discuss with us outside of this presentation or privately, you can reach out to us for sure. And you can use the email emergencyservices@rdn.bc.ca. So I am going to open up the floor to questions. As I mentioned, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat box, and that way we can record what people have asked and perhaps provide a bit more streamlined response. So I'll throw it to the chat. I do see, Mick, you had a question about asking about volunteering for help in disasters. So there are a number of avenues to volunteer to help. Sometimes that's financial. So as Julie mentioned, there are opportunities to donate to the United Way as well as the Canadian Red Cross. And there are other resources available. Once again, I'll post them on the website so you have easy access to that. In addition to that, if you are interested in volunteering for emergency response on the long term, the Regional District of Nanaimo does have a great team of volunteers that I think some of them are on our call today through emergency support services, and you can always connect with me via that emergency services email if you're interested in participating as well. Are there any other questions that anybody would like to ask through the chat box? I'll just give it a minute because we always, sometimes people like me are a little bit slow in the uptick.
Would just like to add to that, Caitlin, that there's always opportunities with the Canadian Red Cross for volunteer work as well. Generally, you know, the training path is pretty thorough because of the complexity of the situations that we're dealing with. I'm sure it's much the same with ESS, but we know this is not going to be the last natural disaster that BC encounters. So if you're interested now, it might be too soon to be able to help us respond to this emergency, but we'd very much appreciate on our team for future disasters. And always encouraging all ESS volunteers to join up as Red Cross volunteers as well. And that's a two-way direction. We're always sending our volunteers over your direction too. Always helps with continuity of care.
So I have a question here. Can I apply for relief funding before the restoration is complete on my house? Nadine, are you able to answer that one for us for emergency disaster financial assistance?
Yeah, so definitely you can apply for DFA before or after you've done restoration work on your house. So we can definitely come in, have our assessor assess the damage, and then you can do the repairs afterwards once you know exactly what amount of funding you're going to be getting from us. But on the flip side, if you do want to go ahead with your repairs, you do not need to wait for the assessor to come out to assess the damage before you start that. We do ask though, if you are going to be doing repairs, or any kind of cleanup or anything like that, to take photos of the damage before and after it's been repaired, and also to keep any receipts or invoices that may have been involved in the process. That just helps our evaluator to assess the damage.
Alrighty, I see another question. Are there any websites or financial support to help mitigate future potential flooding? That is a great question. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure of the answer right now. But I know that there are some things that we are doing with the RDN just to make sure that we're ahead of the game and in our planning section. But in terms for private property owners, for financial support, I'd have to look into that. So what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of research and find out more, and we can post the answer to the webpage on the flooding webpage. Wonderful. I just got a thank you. So I just got a thank you from one of our residents saying that her experience has been a lot better this time around with these floodings. So yeah, we're just trying to make sure we're jumping on response, we're jumping on recovery, and making sure that we're making those connections beforehand. So we're glad to hear that you're feeling better about how we're responding and how we're always improving. And like I said, for that one question about future mitigation, I'll find out and post that on our website. And as I mentioned, we will be posting this recording as well as many of the resources that are continuously coming in. So we'll make sure that everybody has easy and clear access to all of the links and all of the information we spoke about today, and any future information that we come across that we can relay to our residents. And as always, feel free to give us a call, drop us a line on that emergency services email, or you can also pop into the rdn.bc.ca website, and there's lots of contact information there. And you can also explore our emergency services webpage for more information on how to recover, but also how to prepare for any of our regional risks that we experience here on the island. Alrighty, I do have a question about how many households were directly affected by the flood. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for me to release that information right now, but I'm sure there will be a briefing update that comes out that is made public for our residents with a little bit more information on how widespread the effects have been. But yes, I'm not sure if I can release that information right now. So yeah, thank you. Alrighty, and are there any lasting thoughts from our presenters today? Anything you'd like to share, or any final tips or information that you'd like to throw out there to our presenters or to our residents?
I had a thought that was just kind of coming off of the question about whether you had to wait to apply for DFA until after the restoration was done. I just wanted to mention on the application form, we do have two appendices. One is a cleanup log and one is a damaged content list. So I understand that maybe you haven't assessed the full extent of your damage yet, or maybe haven't started cleanup work. You don't actually need to fill in those appendices when you send an application to us right away. You can just send the first 2 or 3 pages with a signature, and then you can keep the other 2 blank and use it kind of as like a living document to record your cleanup hours and record your damage, and then can be presented to our field evaluator when they come to your property. So I just wanted to mention that.
Alrighty, well, I have 10:55. I will bring this meeting to a close. Thank you everyone for joining us, and everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and don't be afraid to reach out to those resources that you think you might need. Everybody needs help sometimes, so we're always here to help, and we're always happy to provide those resources.
Thank you, Caitlin.